all of you can see me and hear me. And then we're going to
Girl,
go
Dr.
ahead and get
Tarika Lewis
started.
here today.
So we know you're hearing me on Facebook. Let's check out YouTube. Yep, I see myself on YouTube as well. We got one more to check out for those of you trying to view on Periscope. And yes, we are here. All the places and all the things. Thank you so much for joining me. It is a beautiful Saturday here in Florida. I'm not sure where you are joining me. But I wanted to talk to you today very briefly. Saturday lives are brief as I choose to respect your time, but they are also your time. So feel free during this live to comment, to let me know how you're feeling, to just put an emoji in there to let me know if you're hearing me. As a matter of fact, right now, will you let me know if you're watching this live or on the replay? Hey there, Jamanda. See you there again. So good to have you here with me. Those of you that are watching as well, don't be shy. I see you and I appreciate you. And so let me just go ahead and roll right in and get started. My name is Dr. Tarika Lewis, otherwise known as Dr. Lou, your partner in success and progress. And I am an instructional systems designer, an instructional leader, and a consultant. And I help people and organizations to achieve success using education and other tools. So I want to thank you again for joining me today. And if you haven't already commented on whether or not you're watching this live or on the replay, please do so. And let me know where you're watching from. Today, we are going to be talking about my answer to the question, how in the world do I get my kid to put down the phone, tablet, video game, or other device and focus? A lot of parents are dealing with kids learning from home. And a lot of parents who are dealing with kids learning from home are also trying to work from home themselves. So it has been quite the challenge trying to get all of that balanced. And it's very distracting when you're worried about your kid not focusing, not paying attention, not getting the work done, and you're fighting yourself. But whether or not you're working from home, that's neither here nor there. If for any reason you have found yourself frustrated because your kid is holding on to a device and distracted by it, then this live broadcast is for you. We're going to get in quickly and talk about a few things that you can do to increase engagement and overcome that without pulling your hair out or getting a hold of your child old school. All right. So I was asked this question about not just one, but many parents on Facebook. I've heard educators in classrooms pull their hair out about this a lot before, even when I was teaching alongside them. I've just had lots of adults ask about this. And the biggest complaint that teachers have in the classroom is that about devices. Now, I know a lot of teachers aren't in the classroom right now, but that's one of the challenges that they have when they are. All right. So let's get into it. The simplest answer as to what do I do? How do I get my kid to put down their device and focus is that you don't. You technically have to approach it that way. That doesn't mean you can't get control of the situation. That doesn't mean that you can't get their focus where it needs to be. When I say you don't, what I mean is your main focus needs to be transcend the device. All right. So let's talk a little bit about that. Your first job when it comes to your kids' education is engagement. You've got to get buy-in from them. You've got to get them to feel attached to the mission and the goal of learning. If you don't, they're going to be just like any other human being that's forced to do something. It's not that they won't do it out of respect for you. They will. But if they're doing something just out of respect for you and they feel forced to do it, they're going to do it pretty much the same way that employees across the world act at work. They're going to half-heartedly do it, and there is not going to be focus there. It's just going to be, how do I check this box to get whoever off my back so that I can go on with living my life? And you don't want them to see school that way. You want them to see school differently. We're going to talk about that in a minute. So let's talk about the 7 things that you can do to combat device distraction. That's what we're really dealing with here, device distraction. The first one is that you're going to have a focus on structured time with accountability. What I mean by that is this: kids are people, and people need what we call SMART goals, right? For those of you that have not been in a business setting where you've heard jargon and the typical word of the day or the term that's popular, for the last 2 decades or more, SMART goals have been a buzzword for productivity in anywhere, actually, accomplishing goals, dreams, and whatever, but also in business. Your focus in these SMART goals is going to be on 3 of the 5 letters. SMART is an acronym. For those of you that don't know, Google it after this live and you'll see what I mean. It's easy to implement in your life and you could use it for other things. But the 3 letters that are most important here are going to be the S, the M, and the T. You need to make sure that you give your kid goals that are strategic, measurable, and timed. What I mean by strategic is you want to make sure that you kind of lead them to what you want to get out of them, whether it's just focused work for the day, a finished assignment, a past test, whatever that is. So it needs to be strategic. Whatever the goals are that they set for the day ought to lead them to that for you. It needs to be measurable. They need to know, how do I measure that I finished it and I'm successful? And it needs to be timed. By the end of the day, by Friday, within the next 2 days, however that works. Now, if you have a goal that's going to happen over several days, you need to break that down in chunks because they need motivation for right now. Why do I need to focus right now? So if it's Wednesday and you tell them Friday, they're going to say, I'll concentrate on it Thursday or Friday. All right, so you want strategic, measurable time goals for your kid. And the bottom line is you don't have to communicate that to them. You don't need to give them a slideshow. You just need to say, I want you to do this. I need it done by this particular time. And this is what it's going to look like if you have done it and done it correctly. You would be surprised how many times that behavioral issues or the challenges of, not wanting to nag, but feeling like you're nagging actually come from the fact that there is no clearly defined picture of success. And if you think just telling them get it done or I want it finished is a clear definition of success, that's the equivalent for you saying, I want to be successful in my life. If you don't have clear pictures of what that looks like, success is different for all people, and it's going to change for you from one day to the next, from one moment to the next. All right. So if you ask them to do something, make sure that you give them those specifics, and don't forget to assign rewards and consequences to it and to follow through and follow up on it. If you're not going to do that, then you've wasted your time. All right. All right. So comment if you've already got strong tracking systems in place, if you already use this technique of SMART goals with your kid. And also comment if you know the success of using this technique for yourself. All right. So anyway, let's move on to number two. Tip number two, use technology. Don't fight it. Technology is your friend. It's not the enemy. And what you want to think about is this. Most of us are either millennials or millennial minded. We have stepped into the 21st century. We use technology for everything. Many of us have smart homes. And if we don't, we're looking at them and salivating over the devices that we're going to put in our homes later. Many of us can program our vacuum from the office or wherever you are. And the point that I'm making is we have learned to embrace technology and not see it as a distraction in our own lives. Now we've got to do that with kids. For some reason, no matter how progressive we are, we go straight old school when it comes to kids in school, and we turn into our grandparents or our parents and say, put that phone down. We want you to focus. So even though we don't do it ourselves, we want them to sit down and read a paper book, a book with paper pages in it to study, or to have the same focus and equivalent while they're learning online. And the first step to dealing with the whole distraction of technology is to make it so that technology is more than a toy. Let me give you an example. A building can be a fun house. It can be a gaming store. It can be a bouncy house. A building can be anything. It can be used for several purposes. But the reality is that the same floor plan and layout for one single building could be used for apartments, offices, a theme park, you name it. And we see it all the time when businesses buy a building and convert it, and it used to be a gas station and now it's a Dollar Tree or whatever the case may be. And so I say that to say you've got to start to treat technology like it's a part of your life, and it's a structure that's present, and it can be used for different things. Part of the challenge is if kids only see technology as something that they play with, then when it's time to use it, and they will have to use it, they're going to think playtime in their mind. Right? It's like trying to lay down in your bed and do your work. Some people can do that, but most people, they're going to be dozing off pretty quickly. So I say that to say, treat technology like it is not the enemy. It can be engaging and it can be useful. I use this a lot in the classroom, and I never as an educator had to take a cell phone. I never as an educator had to send a student out. I don't believe, and I don't want to lie. If I did, maybe it was once. But I never had to send students out of the classroom. And we're talking hundreds, if not thousands of students that I've taught over time. I never had to send them out about technology, but I always embraced it and incorporated it into my educational practice. And with a little bit of work, you can do the same as the parent who is also the teacher. So drop a comment on one way that you use technology in life and work that is not the way you would have used it. Your parents would have used it when you were a kid or something like that. And the whole point is to make that connection. Drop a comment if you're aware of that and if you're seeing that. All right. And then number three, we're on number three. Number three, let your child teach you. Even if you are a technology savant, even if technology is in your name, even if your degree is in technology or your work is in technology, let them teach you something about their tech that they like. Maybe they'll teach you how to play a game. Maybe they'll teach you how to sit down and really, and at first they're going to blow you off because they're not used to you engaging with them that way. Maybe. Some of you might not be true. But either way, allow them to teach you allow them to open your eyes to what technology means to them and why. In some cases, you're going to find, whoa, I may need to put like a cap on that because I don't like the way they're using it and I don't like what they're being exposed to. But in other situations, you're going to find that you just know your kid better. And because you are turning into a learner, they're going to trust you to tell them how to be one better. And you're going to be able to put yourself in their shoes. So I want you to comment whether or not you've seen the same issues. If you're having difficulties with your child focusing and using technology, I want you to comment on whether or not that was an issue before COVID-19. Especially if your child is learning online or doing distance learning or something like that. Did you have issues with them before they were learning online with not putting the cell phone away, being distracted, or maybe getting in trouble in school by it? And the whole point is to kind of like put things in perspective. Just think about that and drop a comment for me. I'd love to know. Okay? So number 3, we've talked about embracing technology. Number 4, treat it like it's to be used in moderation when it comes to the playtime part of it. And model that for your kid. If you are always scrolling and they can't fully get your attention, and when I say you, I'm talking about myself. And I pride myself on being very disciplined in my life, but there are times that my children will say, "Are you in phone land?" when they're trying to tell me something. I don't know why they came up with that term, but that's like their joke for me. Thank you so much, Janisha, for sharing it with us. Janisha says it was an issue before COVID-19. And the reason, Janisha, your honesty is helping us all because it was a problem for most parents. It was, if your kid has a cell phone, a tablet, or is really into video games, at some point you have had to tell them to put it down and focus. Maybe not on school, but on what it is you want them to do around the house. So when we look at it like that, and we think about how we can embrace technology and incorporate it in a healthy, positive way into lifestyle, you would be surprised. And I'm going to use myself as an example because I want you to know I'm not just preaching to the choir. These are things that I do in my own life, but I also do it for my clients. What I do for my kids is we have an agenda that we print out in the morning with those goals on it. And it has how many learning tasks that they're probably going to do on average in a day and blank so they can fill in which ones they have to do when they look at their dashboard at school. So when I walk away, after they've eaten breakfast, they've looked at that agenda. They know they have 4 learning tasks or however many learning tasks. And they know, and we build in breaks in between as well. And the technology time that's just unbridled, that comes at the end of the day. But the stuff that's going to be during the day for us, like it'll be learning based or learning focused. It's not going to be, video games because it's hard to come back and focus after that. So I save those for after all the school tests are done. But I have the agenda laid out that way. All right. And so then they are motivated. Like I literally don't have to, what they will ask me is, have I completed enough to get my electronics time tonight? Now we're talking about those outcomes that go with the SMART goals. Because with the SMART goals, you have to focus on the outcome. Now it's not personal. They're not thinking, Mom, oh my gosh, are you going to let me play with my video games? They're thinking, did I get the job done so that it's time to play? And if they stress, it's about that. And I've got strong-willed kids. So my kids are no different than yours. But you would be surprised how much they will rise to the occasion if you empower them with the skills to make good decisions, right? Because the other thing is, we're going to talk about in just a minute, their school is connected to the stuff they want to do in life. You know, your kids see you hating your job, for those of you that do. So you can start building in incentives like, if you don't want to hate your job, if you don't want to have to do work that you don't like in order to feed your kids, then let's talk about what work you want to do and how school is going to factor into that. Because even if they want to play video games for a living, there are video game testers that make 6 figures, video game designers that make 6 figures. They have to finish school. Now you've given them motivation. I'm telling you. But anyway, that's another lesson for another day. I want to stay on topic because I don't want to keep you too long. So, but model what you want them to do. And if you want them to learn, let them teach you what they're embracing about their games and their electronics so that you are now the learner and you're also in touch. So that the next time you want to provide them incentive, you can say, thank you so much. Barnes said, teach them about consequences. Yep. And that's coming up in just a minute. So you're a great segue for that. All right. But you want to teach them how to use the things that are good for you in moderation. And that brings me to number 4, if I didn't already say it. Model using your technology in moderation, and model holding them accountable for being able to use it in moderation. And when they're using it, then it's not a bad guy. Are you having fun on your game? That's great. Did you win today? Don't forget to ask those kinds of questions. That's important to them. That's like when you come home to your spouse and they act like they don't give a flip about your day. Do you think they would care about that office at all if it wasn't impacting you and therefore their lives? Absolutely not. But they care because it matters to you. And so that's what we'll do with the video games as well. They will trust you more. And if a trusting kid that also has buy-in with why I'm doing this, that's an obedient kid. And you never have to bring out the word obedience. You never have to bring out discipline or consequences because they get it. And what's wrong with them getting it? Absolutely nothing. That's what you want. All right. You'll be able to reach them better. Number 5, keep up with consequences and rewards. I told you, Barnes, that you were right there. You were my segue. So keep up with the consequences and rewards. Detach from your feelings and assign consequences and rewards to outcomes. So we talked about SMART goals. And so for my girls is, okay, let's finish your checklist for the day. And when we get to the end of the work part of the day, we transition into chill part. And that's when we're pulling out the electronic devices in moderation. And the way I do that is, again, 30-minute pops. So usually on an average day, they get 2 30-minute sessions on their electronics, and they can earn a third one if they've really been burning the midnight oil per se, if they've really been working hard that day. But I also include workouts. They've got to have time for reading, meditation. I build it all in there so they're also taking care of themselves. That will balance their mood. The technology is no longer a high or a low. You'll find you have less moody kids. So while it's good to not be afraid to say no to your child when you need to, it's also good to build in opportunities where no is not always necessary because they get it. They really will get it. So detach from it. Keep up with your consequences and rewards. At the end of each day, let's look at that checklist. Why? Because we want to celebrate that they checked off so many items, that you worked hard, that you got it done. You did that. They need to hear you say that. Because if they hear you say that, then it's going to matter when they didn't do it. And when you say, the reason we're not touching that video game tonight is because we didn't finish our learning task. Now, at that moment, take your feelings out of it. It is absolutely not personal any more than it's personal for you to your supervisor if you want to take out your phone during work for 2 seconds and look at it to see if your kid called or whatever. And I'm not saying that they argue at work, but my point is put it in that perspective and just it's consequences that go with it, and they are non-negotiable. And if you upset about it, as long as you keep respectful with that, you can eat your dinner and you can go right on to bed. And it'll be all right tomorrow. Because guess what happens tomorrow? They know you're not playing. They know you're not vacillating, going back and forth. They know that they either finish their work and do what they said, do what they've been told they've got to do, or they don't touch that device. And you'd be surprised how quickly they just self-regulate. You may have one rough night because they don't know that you're going to follow through calmly and do it. But the key is detaching, not because you're scared to get with them or to whatever. I'm like, if they're being disrespectful, then you have to do whatever the consequences are in your house for that. But what I am saying is, if you can manage to stay measured so you can focus and keep that system in place, after a while, it won't be necessary and your blood pressure won't be up or whatever, however you feel, because they'll be regulating themselves and they'll do it. And that's what we want. So number 6, we're almost there, guys, is make school necessary and valuable. Make school necessary and valuable. That is super duper important. And how do we do that? The same thing that we do for adult learners, which is WIIFM. What's in it for me? Whenever as an instructional designer, if I'm designing instruction for adults, if I'm running a program for adults, if I'm facilitating consultation for adults, my first step is to show them what's in it for them. What are the outcomes going to be of this? And we have to move away as a community from telling our kids that we're going to school to get a good education. There are so many educated people that are broke that you are not going to motivate or incentivize them. There are so many educated people that can't control their lives. They can't do what they want to do on any given day. And so you are not going to incentivize your child who is in a different world by telling them to do whatever because they need a good education. You want to show them what they can do with that education, because that's what separates the people who get educated but don't necessarily have the success that they'd hope from the people who achieve success with or without different types of education. And when you do that, again, now your kid's going to see the importance. I've seen it happen with, and the hardest group to motivize and incentivize with school is males. I work with a lot of male students for whatever reason. I think some of it is because I have a demeanor that they tend to feel at ease with. But the point that I'm making is the first thing I do is get drilled into that and get them motivated to understand what the impact is that they will have on their own lives by mastering their education. And I've got students that when they're done with tutoring and it's time for them to graduate high school, they go get a part-time job. I've had one student go get his own part-time job because he wanted to continue paying for sessions to walk with me through the transition into college because he understood how much it was benefiting him. How motivated is that? He went from not even knowing what he was going to do to having a plan through college into a profession. He went from not knowing what job he was going to have to wanting to go into the medical field. And my point is, it was his dream. So he fought for it. You don't have to discipline that kid about school when that's the case. And even if his cell phone is tempting him or distracting him, he remembers, I got to get this class under my belt. I need it for such and such. And you need to incentivize your kids like that. Make school necessary and valuable. And I've got some other materials on that because it really, really, really works, especially if you're dealing with a son that is over it. Because you'll be surprised how many times part of the reason is because of how he's treated in class, subconsciously, subliminally. All right. Number 7, the last one, look at their workspace. Look at where they're working. And especially for those parents whose children are distance learning and they're working from home, I want you to think about it. If you have ever worked from home or tried to get some work done, how hard it is to focus if you're sitting in the kitchen or the living room or a space where everybody knows to come to you and you've got 15 things to do and you can see the laundry sitting over there and or whatever your thing is that you do around your house. Oh my gosh, it is really hard to be productive. So even if you have a tiny space, create a nook. Right? Even if you just think about what are the things that will distract. And sometimes the nook is temporary. So from 8 to 6, this part of the dining room table is where they get to work. And then they also have a corner of their room with a beanbag. They can be in their room, but they can't be on the bed or at the desk or at the computer or at the wherever they play video games or whatever the case is. And so now they have spaces to go. Just like you, if you just get up out of your bed thinking you're going to work remotely, you're not going to get much done laying on the bed with your laptop. So you have to build that in for them, that subconscious device that helps them to see that they are in school. It's school time. So comment if you feel me on that one. Comment if you feel me. As a matter of fact, what I'd love for you guys to do is let me know if this information was valuable to you, because these are things that absolutely revolutionized how I motivate my kids, how I keep them moving, how I minimize stress and distractions from them and for them. In other words, I'm less distracted when I don't have to stop 15 times to say, are you doing your schoolwork? Or no, you can't have your phone. Or is that your phone in your hand? Like, I can't remember the last time I've said that. So these are things that will help your kids to kind of grow up about education and what they are, what it means to them and how they feel about their own education. And you're going to be shocked at the more confident and more mature child that you're now dealing with. So let me know if these things are valuable to you. They have been invaluable for me and many clients. I look forward to sharing with you again. Make sure you leave me some comments. Make sure you click a like. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe. Turn on your notifications, because I plan on continually dropping knowledge and support, not just for parents, but for people trying to better their lives using education and other tools and deal with the new systems that are developing due to the pandemic and the changes in the world around us. So until next time, it is your girl, Dr. Tarika Lewis, otherwise known as Dr. Lou, your partner in success and progress. I'm here to help you succeed using education and other tools. I want you to remember one thing, family. I love you. I believe in you. And for now, I am out.